Hi Chris, this is Mr. Michike. Going to try something a little different as you know for these essays, and you'll be getting your feedback verbally. And I'm going to read through the essay and make comments as we go along, and then you'll have a chance to go through and check to see that you understand what I had to say, and then we'll have a chance to sit down together. Okay, here we go. On the psychological inducements stimulating human migration to and within cities. As we talked about, I think a very interesting and complex topic that I know took a bit of time and craftsmanship on your part. So well done there. Let's see if it supports the work of the essay, as it were. For as long as humans have been a proper civilization, cities have been the center of human interactions. But why do people flock to cities in the way they do? There are many reasons, but each one is specific, in most cases, to the individual. There's some contradiction to say each one is specific in most cases to the individual. I would clean that up a little bit if I were you. One person might go to a city for work, and someone else might go because it's safer than where they originally lived. But there are a few unifying reasons why most humans are attracted to cities, even if these reasons are within the unconscious most of the time. Okay, it looks like you have a comma splice here, which is when you put two sentences together that should be separate sentences and join them by a comma. I would say the first sentence is, but there are a few unifying reasons why most humans are attracted to cities, even if these reasons are within the unconscious. I think that should be a period. Most of the time they have an impact on a human being's will to visit or live in a city. So I think those are two separate sentences, and you want to make sure you're not splicing two of them together by using a comma instead of a period. And I would say that second sentence, most of the time they have an impact on a human being's will to visit or live in a city, is borders on the obvious. If that's the reason humans are attracted to cities, I would presume they have a will to visit or live in a city. Immigration is often considered one unifying reason, but one must keep in mind that everyone is coming and going for their own reason. Okay, this is certainly a common issue, but everyone is a singular noun, and there is a plural possessive. So if it's everyone is coming and going for his or her own reason, that makes sense. But everyone and there don't work together. Money is also a compelling argument, but money wasn't around in the cities of ancient Mesopotamia, at least in the form of universal currency. Although this point seems irrelevant, a city is still a city no matter when or where. These unifying reasons are hard to put down because, as mentioned earlier, many people do have past experience with or different ulterior motives about moving to cities, and this could alter some of the motives people have in going to a city. The three reasons that primarily, if unconsciously, affect most humans around cities are some of the most primal and basic feelings that people experience. The status of living in a massive structure full of other similarly successful people, the interconnectedness of the population, and the sense of endless opportunity present in an urban environment. Okay, that ends up with a nice, strong, and clear thesis statement. So I think that part of the paragraph is successful. And I understand your desire to give a lot of background information before getting to that. I would say you probably, excuse me, you probably could get there much more easily, and the complexity of your reasoning before that thesis statement is maybe overly complicated and therefore a little confusing. So it might be helpful to clean up that first paragraph and limit the explanations that you give, the background that you give coming into it. So of course what I'll be looking for in The remainder of the essay is to see if you have proven this thesis statement effectively. Several times throughout the Bible, the kingdom of God is often referred to as the golden city. Okay. Several times and often are a little redundant, so one or the other would do. People could agree with this image because not only is one surrounded by the most precious minerals on earth, but they attain a certain level of status by living in a city. Again, on the pronoun front, everyone, not one, is one surrounded by the most precious mineral on earth. So you use the term one, but then you use they attain a certain level of status. One is singular, they is plural, so there's a disagreement there that needs to be ironed out. I would say also that in one of those first two sentences, which is where the topic sentence of a paragraph would be found, you need to make a more explicit connection to the thesis statement. So there would be a lot of ways of doing that. And I can certainly see where this connects to it, but it's your job as the author to make that connection for us and help us see how what you've said in this topic sentence helps to prove your thesis. While most cities aren't made of gold, living in a city often makes one look a whole lot more important. Okay, a whole lot is a little too casual a phrase for a formal essay. The cities are typically where decisions are made, alliances are formed, and where new things are created. Being a part of all this has given many a famous person bragging rights, and through them, the city is advertised too, so more people come and the cycle begins anew. With more and more people becoming successful in cities, it becomes almost impossible for any human to resist moving or at least involving themselves with a city to get a shot at being famous. It's a little bit of a broad statement. It becomes almost impossible for any human to resist moving, partially because you're setting up a negative there that how do you prove that it's impossible not to feel compelled to go that way? So I think there's a way you could phrase that would be more manageable. As quoted in Psalm 122, a song of praise for Jerusalem, Jerusalem built as a city that is bound firmly together. To it the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, as was decreed for Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. For there the thrones for judgment were set up, the thrones of the house of David. Here, the city of Jerusalem is treated as a place where the tribes go up, presumably to commune with God. By the way, after a quote like that, which you do a good job breaking out as a separate piece, you don't indent the remainder of the paragraph. When a place is treated like this, it is obvious to any human that Jerusalem is the city of God, and living there makes one closer to him. If you take someone who has lived on a small farm and someone who lived in Jerusalem, the person in Jerusalem would obviously be seen as more holy and powerful than the farmer by most of the common people. Even now, places like New York are regarded by most with high respect, not because of religion, but because of the network of people that live and work there. This is an interesting observation that you're making, and I think a good one, and I think one that is consistent with your thesis statement. Again, I think you could do more to frame it in a way that demonstrates how it helps to prove your thesis statement. I also think the point you're making, while it's a good one, is a little bit vague and less precise than it could be. This idea that if you take someone who lived on a small farm and someone who lived in Jerusalem, one would be more holy and powerful than the other. I think, I think there are ways of phrasing that, there are ways of talking about that would be more consistent with your thesis statement. So that's a matter of polishing, but I think you're in the right neighborhood. It is easy to see that most cities have a massive population. But what sets those cities apart most of the time from, say, a really large town is the interconnectedness of the diverse population. Okay, I think that's a solid topic sentence and does help to connect to your thesis statement. The one thing I would say is that you want to, if your thesis statement is that it compels people, this quality that you're talking about, or these qualities that you're talking about, compel people to come to cities, you're really not talking about just what's different between a town and a city, but what makes a city more compelling. A common elementary school activity involves having each child play the role of a job, such as a firefighter. They throw a ball of yarn. Again, each is singular and they is plural, so you need to get some agreement there. They throw a ball of yarn while still holding the end of the yarn to another worker, such as a baker. Then the first child would say, "I, as firefighter, depend on the baker for fresh food," and the process is repeated amongst the group of kids until a very complicated web of yarn is formed between the various jobs. This is a very good example of the reason why people love cities. People are incredibly social beings, so being around and interacting with other humans is a necessary part of life. That's a great illustration of the point that you're making, and you do a nice job because you talk about what it is that why people love cities. You've connected it back to your thesis statement. Would have been better to have that further up in the paragraph in the topic sentence, because then it would introduce the reader to the overall idea of the paragraph. Having a readily available web of people to communicate with keeps an individual informed and helps them to thrive. Again, an individual is singular, them is plural, so you have some disagreement. This idea is essential in the works of Jane Jacobs, a prominent city planning expert. In her book, The Life and Death of Great American Cities, Jacobs thoroughly endorses the importance of having a connected city. She says about Georgetown in D.C., the uniqueness and friendliness of the stores, the pleasure of running into people while running errands on the next corner, and nothing but pride over the fact that Georgetown has become a specialty shopping center for the whole metropolitan area. Jacobs, page 71. It is these random encounters with people on the street that promote most cities on such a wide scale. Although not directly advertised, it remains an unconscious desire for most to be, for example, the guy who can go to Starbucks, order the usual, and have his favorite drink brought to him with a casual conversation about his day. This is the kind of notoriety that most humans so desire, and a city is one of the best places to attain this, as one of the most interconnected locations in an area. Of course, the more people are connected, the more opportunities will open up, and to most human beings, opportunity is a good thing. You're doing a nice job filling in the details of your argument in this paragraph. I think one of the issues is going to be offering substantial kind of real-life proof or real-life connections. You do a good job of illustrating your points, and I somehow struggle a little bit with whether you are actually proving them. So that's a mixed bag, but you are staying focused on your topic and continuing to move it forward nicely. I'm actually going to stop here, and there'll be 2 recordings so that I can get all your comments, because this program only allows 15 minutes worth of comments. So this will be part 1, and then you'll have part 2 as well.